loops come in handy for something very important in computer science known as iteration, also known as repetition. And the reason why we need to use these loops is because it actually turns out that computers are awesome at doing tiny tasks over and over again. So the first loop that we'll look at is a while loop. And so we'll use the word while, and kind of like how in an if-else block we have the word if and then parentheses and curly braces, except we're just going to replace the word if with while. We're going to evaluate whatever is in these parentheses, and if it turns out to be true, then we'll keep doing this over and over again until this thing turns false. So you need to make sure that you'll eventually evaluate this thing in the parentheses to be false. Otherwise, you'll run into what's called an infinite loop. So what that's going to look like is this is going to run over and over again, and it's never going to stop. And so it'll probably show as an error somewhere in your console here. But what this would look like is if you just have while true, actually it won't even do anything. It's just going to keep running. As you can see here, like the scroll bar is just going down and down and down. So let's terminate this process. And let's actually do something that's worthwhile. Let's say I have an integer and it's at 5 right now. While my integer is greater than 0, we can print out my integer. And the way that we can make this so that it eventually evaluates to false is we can keep subtracting 1 from my integer so that it'll eventually get to 0. And then this will evaluate to false. So we can do my int minus minus. And that's basically shorthand for saying my int is equal to my int minus 1. And that looks kind of weird because in math we can't really say that x is equal to x minus 1. That'll always evaluate to like something that's impossible. But in computer science, we evaluate the right side first and then assign it to whatever's on the left, if of course there's only one equal sign. So we'll do my int minus minus. So my int will turn into 4 after one loop, after one iteration of this while loop. And we'll see that if we run it, it says 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And when it gets to 0, my int is 0, and it checks this statement. Is my int greater than 0? No, it's not. So it's going to terminate and get out of this while loop. Now we can do the same exact thing with a for loop, except we're going to declare our variables in the loop itself. So it has a little bit of a different syntax structure. We're going to declare the variable int, and usually we just put I. So int I is equal to 5. So we're assigning 5 to I. And then the second thing that comes is what we're going to check. So like we said here, my int is greater than 0. Let's check if I is greater than 0. Then we need a third thing. So I minus minus. So it's basically kind of like a compressed version of the while loop. So instead of declaring the integer outside and then doing the little checking statement and then doing the decrement, we're doing all of this in one short little line of code. So remember, the first part is assigning a variable. The second part is going to be checking if it is true or not. Then the third part is going to change the variable. And so we can do the same thing as the while loop that we had here. And so if we run both of these, we get the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 from the first while loop. And then we have a second 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 from the for loop. So that's pretty much the basics of while and for loops. We'll definitely get into more complicated things later, but for now, this is all you'll see.